Oh, wow. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, no, that video was, they did a really good job with that video. They produced that at the World Championships in 2022, just a few short months ago. But yeah, no, it was a phenomenal video, and thank you, Andy, so much for that introduction. It's just great to be here. And I kept asking myself, like, as I'm sitting up here, and over the last couple of months since I knew I would be doing this talk, I'm like, why in the world are they bringing me, some crazy kid who just loves to swim, bike, and run as fast as he possibly can? Why are they bringing me up here to chat and talk to you all about basically what I talk about is keeping an eye on your vision. You could scoop up any old Olympian or Paralympian at the training center, and I'm rolling it through my mind. I finally come to the conclusion: it's because Brian wants to get me out of the cafeteria for a couple of hours because I'm eating him out of house and home. So yeah, you're welcome, Brian. You can save on the budget a little bit. But no, it's great to be here. Thank you all so much for having me. In that video, you saw me chatting with my teammates, really enjoying the process of being an athlete, competing at the World Championships. You got a brief glimpse of my guide, Zach Goodman, who has been just a huge instrumental role in helping me compete in triathlon. And a lot of people ask me, they all want this, this formula for success. Like I go and I talk to groups, or I sit down with new athletes, and everyone wants to know, how did you do it? How did you make it to the Paralympics? How did you do it? Like how did you become how did you climb Mount Kilimanjaro? How did you race your bike across the country from West Coast to East Coast? How did you do an Ironman in under 11 hours? And I don't have a easy answer, but there is a secret to it, and I really debated on whether to share it with you guys today. And but I finally decided that, you all are my friends, 250 of my closest friends here. Trust you guys, and since it is a secret, though, I think I better whisper it, because if I whisper it, that means you won't tell anybody. So, the secret to success. Why most people fail to achieve their desired level of success is because they don't believe it's possible. Shh, don't tell anyone. No joke, guys. It's pretty simple. If you believe it, you can do it. But it's not so simple, right? You guys are the part of the National Association of College and University Food Services, and I decided that I was gonna at least look you guys up, Google you, and kind of find out what it is you're about. And right there, smack on your on the homepage, it says, supporting and promoting excellence in collegiate dining since 1958. We are dedicated to serving as the professional resource for collegiate food service leaders to elevate dining and transform the campus community experience. It's a pretty lofty vision, if I do say so myself. We have a lot of leaders here that are, representing big universities, colleges, and you're all in a tough space. Let's just say that. Like I say, you're trying to transform the campus community experience. You're trying to be professional. You're trying to do all of these things. with, crazy college kids. So it really takes quite a vision to accomplish that. And that vision, at the end of the day, it starts with you. There's a popular saying out there. It says, there's no I in team, but there is a me. Now, a lot of people take that as kind of a selfish thing. I look at it as, it starts with me. So in order to keep an eye on your vision, you have to create that vision. You have to create this foundation, and you have to believe in this vision that you can accomplish, whether that is creating this amazing campus dining experience, whether it is creating a home. What we've done at the Olympic and Paralympic Training Center is, I feel like it's my home now, because of the way the dining hall staff has welcomed us and made it our home. So you do that by living out and establishing a personal foundation, by establishing your values. And so for me, my personal foundation, the values that I grew up with, they started very early. My dad was served in the U.S. Marine Corps for 6 years, and had a tough childhood growing up, and so the Marine Corps taught him a lot of values, such as honor, commitment, courage, the ability to improvise and adapt so that you could overcome the challenges in life that faced you. And our family, we faced some challenges very early on. When I was 10 months old, I was diagnosed with a rare form of eye cancer called, as you heard earlier, bilateral sporadic retinoblastoma. It's a really fancy way of saying that I had cancer in both eyes with no family history. And so you can imagine, I'm sure quite a few of you out there that are parents, grandparents, just imagine for a second if you hear that a member of your family is diagnosed with this rare childhood cancer. It's a scary thought, but you know that deep in your heart you're gonna fight like heck. Because you have a vision for this family member. Now, my parents didn't really know what that vision was, but they knew that, gosh darn it, we were going to be a close, tight-knit family, and we were going to fight this cancer with everything we had. So we were fortunate enough to get paired up with some of the best retinoblastoma experts in the entire world. And I started undergoing a lot of various treatments, radiation, chemotherapy, cryotherapy, thermotherapy, all kinds of different treatments. And this went on for 5-6 years until I was about 5 years old, and the damage to my left eye was so extreme that my left eye was basically useless. So we made the very difficult decision to remove my left eye. And about a year and a half later, got to the point where my right eye, it was just so damaged from all of the treatment. The cancer kept coming back, and it was time to bite that bullet and remove my right eye. And so I woke up to this world that was, totally black. I was scared. 7-year-old kid. Growing up, up to the age of 6 or 7, I didn't know that I was different. I just knew that I was sick. So, hey, doc, can you make me better so I can go outside and play with my friends? Cramping my style here. I got basketballs to shoot. I got bikes to ride, rollerblades to, rip around on. Come on, doc, hurry up, make me better. But when you wake up and you can't see a darn thing, you suddenly realize that, it's kind of scary. I don't know what I'm going to do. How am I going to, play basketball? How am I going to ride a bike? How am I going to rollerblade? How am I going to play with my friends, eat my food, do all these normal, simple things? And it wasn't long after that I got introduced to a gentleman named Eric Weinmeier. At the time, Eric was starting to kind of make a name for himself. He was a rock climber, skydiver, downhill skier. He was doing all these really cool, amazing adventure sports. And then a few years after I met him, he went on to become a big shot and climb Mount Everest and climb all of the tallest mountain on each of the 7 continents. But to me, he was a friend. So I got introduced to Eric when I was 7 or 8 years old, and he just kind of sat me down and told me, man, just because you're blind doesn't mean you can't do anything. You can live an incredible, fulfilling life. And so he challenged me to do something crazy and extreme. So he challenged me to try rock climbing. And I was a kid, I didn't know any better, so I just said, yes, sir. And went on to get into competitive rock climbing. I was, my family, we were living in Florida at the time, so went on to rock climb competitively for a number of years, just dabbling, having some fun, and then moving on to my dad and I started tandem cycling together, just out having fun, and then eventually my friends would jump on the front of a tandem bike. In high school, I picked up wrestling, and then I went on to dabble a little bit in wrestling at the collegiate level at the University of Central Florida. But all during this time, I was learning about this. I had this personal foundation being laid out by my parents, and that personal foundation started around the dinner table. Now, I think all of you would agree that food, like sport, has the power to bring us all together. And it's pretty cool. It's actually pretty remarkable. About 10 years ago, my mom decided that it was time to upgrade the dining room set, but when she upgraded the dining room set, she had to get specially made chairs because our family's really known for we congregate in the kitchen or around the table, and when my sister's boyfriend at the time, after his first dinner over at the house, he asked my sister, does your family always have 6-hour dinners? And the reason was because the dinner table, sitting around the dinner table, that's where we did all of our learning, where my parents taught my sisters and me all about that honor, that commitment, that courage, the family values that established what we would go on to do with our lives. So I had this incredible value system set forth very early on in life by just sitting around the dinner table, the breakfast table, talking with my family. So it started you know, so my vision kind of started to take shape as a kid. So I knew that I wanted to do something cool. I knew I wanted to do cool stuff with my life. So I would go on, like I said, to climb competitively and explore my potential. I knew that there was a chance that I could fail, but I just wanted to explore it and find out what I could do and what I couldn't do in the world as a kid who was blind or visually impaired. And I got that opportunity in 2006 to go on a trip with my mentor Eric Weinmeier and a group of blind and visually impaired kids, and paired up with sighted teenagers, and we traveled to the jungles of Peru and hiked this incredible trail, a harder variation of the Inca Trail from Cusco into Machu Picchu. And it was around that time that I started to learn that, man, doing things solo on my own, that was really cool. Like I loved rock climbing. I loved doing stuff for myself, but hiking along and climbing and mountaineering with these people, that was pretty cool. I really enjoyed that part. And so I started expanding my horizons with just asking questions and having conversations and developing relationships. I'm a teenager, so at the end of the day, I was just trying to make friends. And so continued to build these relationships. Some of those teammates from Peru, we got together and decided that we were going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. Did that in 2007. And at the time, I'm only 15 years old. And, Andy asked me, he's like, what was that feeling like? And as a teenager, you're just thinking, this is pretty cool. Like, there's no better word for it. Like, it was an amazing experience, but I couldn't appreciate that experience as just a teenager. Like, I just had this really cool opportunity to travel to a different country, to a different continent, and climb, the tallest mountain on that continent. So you can see that, I keep stepping up a little bit each year. Eventually, some friends and I, we put together this mountaineering team, and we went on to climb some more mountains around the U.S. and did some pretty cool stuff. And eventually, I went off to college, and I had to learn that this personal foundation, these values that I've been developing over the years, they really taught me how to embrace challenge at the end of the day. And you're probably sitting there thinking, well, no duh, man, you're blind. You've been blind forever. Don't you gotta just embrace challenge? And yes, I did have to embrace challenge growing up, but I didn't realize how hard life was going to be until after I graduated from college. So in 2013, I graduated from the University of Central Florida, had my degree in communication. I was, I was super proud of myself. I thought let's just be honest, I was a millennial, classic millennial. I thought I was the hottest thing since sliced bread. I was going to take over the world. I was applying for every job that was listed CEO and above. Eventually, I figured out that wasn't going to work, so I started climbing my way down the corporate ladder. Upper level management. Clearly, a 21-year-old is upper level management material. maybe mid-level manager. Finally climbed my way all the way down to, I look up and it's 12 months after graduation and I don't have a job. Unemployed, I walk into a grocery store, I apply to be a bag boy and I don't get the job. So at that point, I was, I kind of started spiraling downward, was really struggling with my personal relationships. I had kind of gotten away from that personal value system, that willingness to embrace the challenge of life, and I had lost that life without limits mentality. And I had to remind myself that stuff was still possible. And so I decided that I wanted to start running. I had hated running growing up, despised it, loathed it, hated exercising just for the sake of exercising. I had been an athlete. I had loved climbing, and I loved doing some casual tandem cycling, and I loved wrestling. But running, no. Swimming, heck no. But I knew that I had to do something to take my mind off of my unemployment status, and so I jumped online and found a website that paired blind runners with sighted people who were willing to be guides. And so at the time I was living in Orlando, having graduated from UCF, and I decided that, I gotta just throw it out there and see if anyone's willing to guide me and teach me how to run. And so there were 2 people on this website that were listed in the Orlando area as being interested in wanting to guide blind athletes. So I sent them both an email, and one responded, "Well, beggars can't be choosers." So I responded back and said, "Yeah, let's go for a run." And wound up meeting up with this guy, happened to be a triathlete, and he took me under his wing, and we had no idea what we were doing. That first run, pretty sure he ran me into a pole. Pretty sure I wound up on my back, rolling around on the ground, holding certain body parts that shall remain unnamed. But I had found this kind of freedom in running, and this my worries and my stress had kind of fallen away, and my mind was then focused again. My mind was focused on a task, and my newfound friend, who was, when you run together, you tend to talk. You get to talking, you get to learning about each other, and I was back to developing these relationships. I decided that I was going to embrace this challenge of running, and I was going to build this relationship with this guy, because I needed to have his eyes to be able to navigate the world, the streets of Orlando, Florida, so I could run. And he started talking about this triathlon stuff, and started telling me all about the Ironman triathlons that he has done, and the marathons that he's done. And we get to about I think we get 3 or 4 months into running together, and my buddy Mike, he says, "Hey Kyle, what do you think about doing the Disney marathon? It's coming up in a few months." And I'm like, "Well, Mike, I've only been running twice a week for 3 months. I don't know if I'm ready, but sure, I'm willing to try anything." He says, "Great, because I've already signed you up." One catch though, the Disney marathon, that was kind of filled. That kind of sells out instantly, but you're going to do the marathon. The only catch is you have to do the half marathon the day before, because that's called the Goofy Challenge, and that's the only way you're going to do the marathon. So I signed you up for that. Great, Mike. I've never run a half marathon either. You'll be fine. So I go on in 2015. Mike and I go on to run the Disney half marathon on Saturday and the Disney marathon on Sunday. I think I crawled across the finish line. That first marathon took me just under 6 hours. It was nothing special. It was a grind. But for some reason, I loved this feeling of pushing myself physically and mentally to the brink again. And then Mike, told me that we needed to give triathlon a go, and so I decided to dabble in triathlon, and we had no idea what we were doing. We were trying to come up with all these different ways to figure out how I could swim in open water. We got my tandem bike down to Orlando. We were biking together, and we just kind of bumbled our way through a few triathlons. Started running together a little bit more, doing some longer stuff. Eventually did some half Ironmans together. Did some more marathons together. A lot of racing together. Spent a lot of time together, and very slowly, something funny started to happen. Is that the more I trained, the more I raced, the faster I got. And by no means at this point in my career was I fast. In 2015, my first marathon was just under 6 hours. In 2016, I ran another marathon in just over 5 hours. And then at the end of 2016, I ran a third marathon, and I think I finally broke the 5-hour barrier there. And then in 2016, I also completed my first Ironman triathlon. It took me nearly 16 hours, and that was a long grind of a day. But this feeling of accomplishment, of working toward something, embracing that challenge, of working toward a vision, a goal, of just getting better every single day. Really, I wanted to do it for the rest of my life. And so I started to kind of believe that, man, I can actually be an athlete. Like, I don't know if this is possible, but shoot, I'm gonna try. So by 2016, I was employed. I did manage to land a job working for a nonprofit organization in 2014, worked for that nonprofit for a couple of years, and then was eventually hired away and recruited by the Department of the Navy. I went on to work in corporate operations for a short time, but discovered very quickly that government work was not for me. And end of 2016 comes around. I have a nice, cushy job, cushy salary, and I was comfortable. But I also needed a shakeup in my life because I was going through some personal troubles at the time. I had a long-term relationship that had ended badly. My first guide dog passed away, and so while I was showing promise as an improving triathlete, I wasn't in a good headspace mentally. And so I decided to quit my job with the federal government, moved across the country to Colorado. My parents had just moved to Colorado not long before, and decided to move in with them and rent a room from them until I figured out what I wanted to do. And well, so I found myself without a job. And when you have a job, or when you don't have a job, you have a lot of time on your hands. And so I filled that time with training, just swimming, biking, and running a lot. And in 2017, I decided to tackle my second Ironman in Arizona, and was able to complete that in just under 12 hours. And all of a sudden, I kind of started to catch the eye of the triathlon world, because at the time there were only 7 or 8 people who were blind or visually impaired that had gone under 12 hours for an Ironman at the time. And so I decided that I wanted to go all in on this triathlon thing. And so I went out, I hired a coach. I decided to invest, what little money I had into becoming the absolute best that I could possibly be in this triathlon thing. And so throughout 2018, I worked my tail off. I went to triathlon camps. I studied under some of the some pretty incredible names in the sport of triathlon, and eventually in 2018 I was able to, as you heard in my intro, my bio, I completed Ironman Arizona in just under 11 hours, becoming the first totally blind athlete to do so. But that was really only the beginning, because even though I was doing Ironman triathlon, I felt that there was something more out there. And I had heard about the Paralympics. I had never given them a thought, because I didn't really consider myself a super athlete. And the Olympics and Paralympics, those were for the elite athletes. Those were for the athletes that grew up on swim team, that grew up in this elite sport mentality and background. And that was not me. I was just some kid that dabbled a little bit in swim, bike, and run. I was just a kid that dabbled a little bit in wrestling in high school, and then wrestled a little bit on the college club team. I was nothing special, and I think that's what really drew me to triathlon, is because in triathlon, you didn't have to be special. You didn't have to be an elite athlete in swimming, biking, or running. In triathlon, it really was, who's the most resilient? Who can suffer? Who can put the pieces of a puzzle together better than anyone else? And I decided that I wanted to try and do that at the absolute highest level that I could possibly find. And in 2018, the International Paralympic Committee decided to put blind and visually impaired men into the Paralympics. And so I was recruited by USA Triathlon and encouraged to apply to live at the Olympic and Paralympic Training Center, because there was this team that was getting formed up there. And so I submitted my application and was accepted, and moved to Colorado Springs at the beginning of 2019. And I got introduced to my coach, and the first thing he said to me was, "Kyle, there's really nothing special that we do here. We just do simple things really well. We just do simple things really well." And I thought about that value system that I had grown up with. And my dad and my mom had always kind of told me, keep it stupid simple. There's no need to overcomplicate things. And that's all this, my coach was telling me now. He said, just keep it stupid simple, do simple well, and every day we do simple a little bit better. And those things have really helped me keep an eye and keep an eye on my vision of being the absolute best person and triathlete that I can possibly be. Just keeping it stupid simple, doing simple well, doing simple better. So, to go back to what I told you guys at the beginning, that secret to success any one of you out there, keep it stupid simple. Do simple well. Do simple better. The secret to success is believing in that. Believe in the vision that you have set out for yourself, for your organization, for your team, for your family. I had a rocky road for much of my life, particularly as I tried to qualify and go to the Paralympic Games. Struggled with various injuries, got a pretty severe back injury at the end of 2019. And then 2020 rolls around and COVID hits. And we all struggle through that pandemic. 2021 rolls around and we battle our way to the Paralympic Games, and we're at the Paralympic Games, and it's overwhelming. A lot of people think you make it to the highest level of sport, and this is supposed to be exciting. This is supposed to be the biggest moment of your life, the biggest moment of your career, but it's overwhelming. There's a lot going on. There's travel, there's travel restrictions, there's challenge, there's you still have to race and juggle all of the village, all of these different things. And all the while I'm looking around, I'm saying, man, I shouldn't be here. I'm not an elite athlete. But what I knew was that if I just kept it stupid simple, focused on swimming as hard as I could, biking as hard as I could, and running until I could run no more, I would finish the race. It was just a matter of whether I would finish in the place that I wanted. And that first Paralympic Games experience was different. It was like I said, it was overwhelming. It was challenging. It was exciting. But going forward from there, I learned a lot of really valuable lessons. I learned the value of teamwork, of really finding that groove and that personal connection with your guide, with your teammates. I discovered a lot about myself, and looking back over my life, I have this foundation of tremendous values that my parents introduced to me around the dinner table, that they continued to reinforce to me growing up. I learned to embrace challenge by being someone who's totally blind. I'm not going to pretend that being totally blind is not hard. It has its challenges, but then learning to embrace those challenges and understanding that opportunity exists in challenge. And when I look back on it, I would not have been given these opportunities to travel around the world, to climb mountains on 3 or 4 continents, to race against some of the best athletes in the world on 3 or 4 continents, to be one of a select few athletes in the world that can call the Olympic and Paralympic Training Center my home. And it's all because of this value system. So I want you guys to think about your values. And are you living your values? Are you keeping it stupid simple? Are you doing those simple things well? Your values are right here on the homepage of your website. Excellence, service, dedicated, professional, elevate, transform, community. Live those values. Embrace the challenges that come along with having to live those values. Impress those values upon your teammates. Make your teammates your family. Because Lord knows we need our families around us in these tough times. My Olympic and Paralympic Training Center, family, my teammates, they've helped me over the years, and I don't know where I'd be without them. I don't know where I'd be without the relationships that I've built over the years. And I think ultimately, those are the kind of things, and those are the people that have helped me keep an eye on my vision of trying to strive to be the best athlete, the best person, the best dog dad, the best, partner that I can be in my life. And so, as I wrap it up today, I want to leave you with a little proverb that really speaks to me, and I'm going to actually read it verbatim here because I think that this really exemplifies the mentality that I've had of keeping it stupid simple, doing simple well, doing simple better, just doing the basics to a high standard on a consistent basis. But this proverb, for want of a nail, the shoe was lost. For want of a shoe, the horse was lost. For want of a horse, the knight was lost. For want of a knight, the battle was lost. For want of the battle, the kingdom was lost. The kingdom was lost for the want of a nail. So, if the blacksmith had done his job and made sure that nail was set right in the shoe, the horse wouldn't have been lost. The knight would have been able to rely on his horse, so on and so forth down the line. For me as a triathlete, for me as a member of Team USA, I have to make sure that I'm doing the little things. I have to make sure that I am putting the right food in my body. I have to make sure that I am putting in the time, the yardage in the pool, the time with my butt in the bike saddle, the time with my feet running, the time getting my mind right. And you all, as leaders, you got to make sure you're putting in the time and doing the little things as well. And I know you are, because otherwise you wouldn't be here. Otherwise you wouldn't be attending seminars and finding out and pushing yourselves to all new heights. So, you guys, you can be your own Olympians or Paralympians, and you're doing it right here, right now, by attending this awesome regional conference. Do simple well. Do simple better. Keep it stupid simple, you guys. Keep an eye on your vision. Thank you. So yeah, I am a dartboard. So hit me with your questions. I love answering your questions when I can.
Anybody who